12. Good evening, everyone. I'm Tisha Powell.
Hi, everyone. I'm Steve Daniels. We were the first to tell you about this last month. The investigation into allegations of a guard having sex with the inmates at women's prison in Raleigh. And now Bishmi Allah has been indicted for those alleged crimes. Ed Crump has been digging into this story for weeks now and joins us live at the Wake County Justice Center, where Allah faced a judge this afternoon. Ed?
Well, Steve, our digging has turned up new information tonight on one of the alleged victims in this case. It's something correctional officers fear, ending up behind bars themselves. Word spreads quickly in jails and prisons when it does happen. That's why Bishmi Allah is in safekeeping tonight. He's not likely to get out of jail anytime soon with a bond of $450,000. The 32-year-old was indicted for having sex with 4 inmates at the North Carolina Correctional Institute for Women in Raleigh. The indictments claim there were 6 sexual encounters from the 1st of June through mid-August. One of the inmates listed on court documents is serving life without parole for her role in a high-profile quadruple murder in Gaston County back in 2003. Today, the prosecutor told the judge investigators believe this isn't the first time Allah has done this.
He was in Virginia prior to this, and it's my understanding that there was a situation very similar to this in Virginia.
Officials with the North Carolina Department of Correction who run women's prisons say they ran a criminal background check on Allah, but he was never charged in Virginia, so there was nothing on his record. They say even though Allah was fired from his jailer's job in Virginia, his former employer gave him a good reference. Now, it's not clear tonight what the state might do or can do, if anything, about the reference given to them by Virginia authorities. Steve, even though court documents indicate that this sex was consensual, it's still against the law because prisoners are in a vulnerable position and not really able to consent to something like sex.
Yeah, that is the puzzling part, though, Ed, why the state did its homework, why they got that positive reference from Virginia. Thanks, Ed Crump, live in Raleigh tonight.
What's going on, everybody? It's another episode of Real Life Solutions with Uncle T. But I wanted to talk to you today about love relationships inside of the penitentiary, where male officers go in, have relationships with female inmates, female officers have relationships with males. And we see it all the time. I can't even begin to tell you how many people I've seen get walked out of the institution because of this. And it happens to both male and female. You know, guys think that, hey, you know, I'm strong enough. I could go work in a women's prison. You know, I'm strong enough. You know, I'm happily married and, you know, I can go work in there and then women they're not going to entice me. And then I see it in the male facilities. Pretty girls come in and maybe not be so attractive, but you in a institution where there's a lot of males, okay? When you are a female and there are 500 males, I mean, you're gonna get attention. And a lot of people I ask, how does that happen? How does a woman come inside of a female prison and get caught up like that? It's very easy. Because you don't know what's going on in the minds of people. You don't know about their personal lives. Sometimes people have low self-esteem. You know, take a person who has low self-esteem, whether it be male or female. All of a sudden, you get men looking at you talking about, hey, you look good today. You look nice today. Hey, how you doing? You know, you getting all this attention that you may have not have gotten before. Now, you're like, wow, you know, got all this attention, men complimenting you, men looking at you and, you know, saying things which they shouldn't be saying. And I've seen it all the time. I've seen where women have come into the institution, all of a sudden 2 or 3 weeks later, she's wearing, she didn't wear makeup before. Now she's got on a whole bunch of makeup. Pants are a little tighter. New hairstyles, and all of a sudden you see these changes. You know, I'm gonna give you a little statistic here. 2016 to 2018, 2,666, there were inmate to inmate relationships, okay? 2016 to 2018, 2,229 inmates to staff relationships. Because you can't explain how someone is incarcerated and she got pregnant. How do you explain that? How do you explain a woman who's been locked up for the last 7 years, all of a sudden she's pregnant with a baby? Now, we also had here recently LCI Dublin, the federal prison, where a warden and some of his staff were found guilty having sex with female inmates, and they went to trial and they were found guilty. And you have a young woman named Tina Gonzalez, who was a pretty Hispanic girl working in a prison, I believe, in California. Came in, bringing in contraband, had relationships with inmates, even cut a hole in her pants and did not wear underwear so that inmates could have sex with her, and she wouldn't have to pull her pants down or anything. All she would have to do is just bend over and the inmates would do the rest. She had just little things like that. How did we get there? How did we get to where you felt comfortable coming into the institution, cutting a hole, in the bottom of your pants, a round circle, and going to a place around the corner or into the housing unit or wherever, and an inmate inserting himself inside of you, okay? And they're gonna tell. I don't understand how people realize they think they can do this stuff and nobody's gonna tell. Even if the person who is doing it doesn't tell, somebody's gonna tell, because they're gonna get jealous because it's not happening to them. I'll give you a story. I used to work with a female officer. She was gung-ho. She was sharp. She did her job. She didn't really take any crap off the guys. I mean, she was just, straightforward. She was kind of masculine, and it really hit me hard when I heard that she was seeing the inmate outside of the prison. See, he was still incarcerated. This is when I was working at one minimum facility where they get sponsor passes, right? And when they go out with their sponsor, they are supposed to go, to the sponsor's house or to an event or to a cookout or go to church or wherever they do. They're not supposed to be at somebody else's house where they're not supposed to be. Apparently, he talked his sponsor into going by this correction officer's house. Somehow he didn't tell that she was a correction officer. I think that he said that she was a family member that he hadn't seen in a while. And he was going by her house, seeing her. And the sponsor would leave him there and say, okay, I'm gonna pick you up. It may be 2:00 in the afternoon. I think they had to be back by 7. And he would go pick him up by 6 and they were back by 7. So he stayed there at her house all that time, having relations with the correction officer. And he was coming back telling. He was telling his friends that he smashed her. And I don't know why she thought nobody was going to find out. He's going to tell. And he could tell what was in her house, pictures on the wall, what color furniture she had. So he had all the details as to he had been inside her home. And come to find out, he was having a relationship with the correction officer I used to work with, and did nothing happen to him. He just lost some of his privileges. He lost his sponsor pass, but he was getting ready to get out pretty soon anyway. He was on work release. But the officer got escorted out of the facility. You want to be a successful correction officer, be a person of integrity. You have to know what your role is. You have to know what your job is. You have to check a lot of things at that gate before you come in.
Fresno County Assistant Sheriff Steve McComas says he's seen and heard some disgusting things in 26 years at the sheriff's office, but what his former correctional officer Tina Gonzalez did is at the top of the list.
Cutting a hole in your pants to make it easier to have sex with an inmate and having intercourse in full view of 11 other inmates is something only a depraved mind can come up with.
McComas says Gonzalez betrayed her oath even worse when she put her fellow correctional officers at risk. She gave the inmate razor blades, a cell phone, and critical jail intelligence.
And at times communicated sensitive information to the inmate about individuals that were entering the inmate's pod, as well as times and places or times when the pod would be searched.
Gonzalez didn't say anything at her sentencing Tuesday, but her attorney said her marriage was falling apart when she started a relationship with the inmates. It lasted more than a year before investigators caught her, and phone calls after her December 2019 arrest reveal it's continued.
The fact that she continually calls, has sexually explicit conversations with the inmate in question, and even boasts about the crimes she carried out shows that she's incapable of owning up to her mistakes and will undoubtedly continue in the future.
Judge Michael Idiart could have sent Gonzalez to jail for up to 16 months, but noted she had no prior criminal history and admitted her crimes early.
I think what you did was terrible, stupid. You ruined your career. You endangered your fellow officers. But I also believe that people can redeem themselves. You got the rest of your life to prove that.
Gonzalez only has to serve 210 days in jail, and with time credits, she could be out by the middle of October.